Each of us is a destiny. Arthur Rimbaud wrote in his letter, Le Voyant, to Georges Isambard, Je est un autre. I is another. This is exactly what I thought in the plane when I flew over the Atlantic Ocean. I had left Paris a few hours earlier and was arriving in Boston. At this point, where was I? Somewhere, hanging in the sky, above the sea, between two lands. The journey, and particularly the movement of the journey, the movement of a body moving in time. It is an aesthetic sensation that has always moved me. In this space of motion there is the promise of an unknown future. This space, which is defined between 2 points and whose movement is an inseparable part, gives rise to a moment of pure presence. In this moment, in between, I feel alive. I gave a name to this space-time between. I called it the gap. If it could materialize this idea, I could think of scrolling film strip, the holes in the film, swings, the black frame that comes to sleep between shots, between the images. I can hardly grasp this physical space that I feel, that creates a slight break. But I can feel it. It is obvious. It links two things fully by the rupture of a hollow. The gap is a distance as the difference to be filled. In the theory of cinema, it is Dziga Vertov who has responded. For him, the gap is a maintained visual distance between two shots. The gap can therefore make time a formal device. The interval is grass clippings under the foot. The feeling of its presence is obvious, disturbing, but to catch it or to identify it is an arduous task. The interval is more visual than intellectual, even in literature or music, and also in the sensible world. And it is because it is visual that it is not to be felt. For example, the Atlantic Ocean, viewed from the American coast, it may be hollow, but it is a gap that separates me from my homeland. The gap is distinct from the interstice. The interstice is a crack, anything unusual that appears, a miniature window where you can see between things in a given space. Visually, the interstice is close to the crack in the wall, the junctures between the slat of wood floors, a blade of grass in the concrete. It is a slot and creates a space between two things, but this space does not open in time. This space is flat and motionless. Roman Polanski's Repulsion is one of the first films to deal with the subject of madness in a visual manner. The psychiatric flaw of the lead character is symbolized by cracks in the walls. These visual hallucinations of cracks appearing on the walls of the apartment are a reflection of the internal cracks of the character. This visual metaphor is close to what Lacan called for by the schism of the subject. I have an affection for the gap, that thing that makes the link between two things. I often imagined it as the space between two atoms on the way to fuse in the hope of becoming one. The trajectory of a snowflake before meeting the pail of snow. The gap contains this contradiction of fusion and separation. This is also what is between you and me, I and you. This indeterminate thing between our two bodies moving in space with the energy of the magnetic attraction closing the gap. The gap is between everything moving, between two planets, between two stars. This temporal, unfinished thing is a mystery. This curiosity led me far from home, in another land, the United States. Flannery O'Connor. Flannery O'Connor. Reading Flannery O'Connor. From the first page, a world enveloped me. There was mystery everywhere. In the Southern America she described, in the characters, in the style itself. Who is she? What she gives me? I came to America. Now I am here in search of Flannery O'Connor.
First of all, welcome to Andalusia. This 19th century farmhouse was where Flannery O'Connor lived from 1951 until her death in the summer of 1964. Artistically, it was the most fruitful period of her life because it was during those 13 years when she was living here that she completed virtually all of her published work. She lived here with her widowed mother, Regina Klein O'Connor, who ran the place as a dairy farm. And then in 1961, due to rising labor costs and some other problems, Mrs. O'Connor turned it into a beef cattle farm. Prior to coming here at the age of 26, Flannery was living in Connecticut with her friends Robert and Sally Fitzgerald. However, in December of 1950, she experienced the onset of the disease lupus, the same autoimmune disease that took her father's life, Edward O'Connor, just 10 years earlier. And she got so sick that she needed to return home to Georgia. And after 2 months of a hospital stay in Atlanta, she eventually settled here at Andalusia. Why? Well, first of all, this was the family farm, but more important than that, it provided Flannery and her mother with a home where they could live completely on the first floor to accommodate Flannery with her physical disabilities that were brought on by the disease. Because of the lupus, which affected her in her hip joints, she had a lot of difficulty walking. In fact, she needed crutches to get around. So it was very important for them to be able to set up housekeeping on just one level. Flannery and her mother went to Mass almost every day at Sacred Heart Catholic Church downtown. And not surprisingly, Catholicism and Christian themes are at the center of O'Connor's work. And I believe that's what sets her apart from the majority of 20th century authors. She died on August 3rd, 1964 from renal failure. Shortly after she died, her mother left Andalusia and moved downtown to the Klein family home, her ancestral home on West Green Street, and lived out the rest of her days there. She did leave the furnishings in this house, however, so just about everything that you see here is original, especially in these two front rooms as well as in the kitchen. Flannery had it turned away from the windows to minimize distractions when she was writing, and she was a very conscientious author. She was very serious about her art. She would sit in that room for 3 hours every single morning and write. 3 hours was about as long as she could go given the nature of her illness. She tired out rather quickly after that. But she felt that it was important to maintain that daily discipline of writing, and she did so right up almost to the end of her life, which occurred when she was just 39 years old, an age when most authors are just starting to blossom.
Flannery is still here. We can feel her. Her presence absence is to be filled. Has the gap filling. I can imagine her, sitting in a rocking chair, sinking to her writing as an habit of being. I came to US to meet her, to understand more her writing, and in this place everything takes sense. The in-between my reading of her in French, was this trip to be here, in a word. I am working in a Flannery O'Connor story. The location is a hunter.
Andalusia is a very unique place. Not only was this the home of a very important American author, and not only was this where she lived and where she wrote, but this was the very source of her inspiration. This farm and daily life out here at Andalusia so fueled Flannery's imagination that after you've been here, it's almost impossible to pick up any number of her better-known stories and not picture this place. And stories like Good Country People, The Displaced Person, A Circle in the Fire, The Enduring Chill. You can just name so many of these stories. And all that is to say, it's very hard to overstate the importance of Andalusia as a literary landmark.
Inside the stories, the gap is a mysterious condition, in her style but also in the topic itself, as the displaced person. The drama is setting in Georgia during the late 40s. Mr. Gizak, a Polish refugee, is relocated by a priest to work on Mrs. McIntyre's farm. Quickly, the industrious and clever Mr. Gizak becomes a threat to the other farm workers. Soon, all are plotting Mr. Gizak's downfall until fate unexpectedly takes a hand. Flannery O'Connor wrote this short story with a keen sense of observation for the subtle cruelty that comes from fear of the unknown. The tragic destiny of this foreign man from another world, another culture, which is part of another history, rooted in misunderstanding of the other, the different. Here, we are two worlds that cannot meet. The world of the foreigner who appears strange and incomprehensible, and the rural American South.
I want to talk to you. Mr. Guzak? You would bring this poor, innocent child over here and try to marry her to a half-witted, black-thieving nigger? What kind of a monster are you?
My cousin. She's 12 here. First communion. 16 now.
Mr. Guzak, that nigger cannot have a white wife from Europe. You can't talk to a nigger that way. You'll excite him, and besides, it can't be done. Maybe it can be done in Poland, but it can't be done here, and you'll have to stop. It's all foolishness. That nigger don't have a grain of sense, and you'll excite him.
She in camp 3 years.
Your cousin cannot come over and marry one of my Negroes.
She's 16 years. From Poland. Mama die. Papa die. She wait in camp. 3 camp. She mama. She die in 2 camp.
Mr. Guzak, I will not have my niggers upset. I cannot run this place without my niggers. I can run it without you, but I cannot run it without them. And if you mention the girl to Sulk again, you won't have a job with me. Understand? I cannot understand how a man who calls himself a Christian could bring a poor innocent girl over here and marry her to something like that. I cannot understand it.
She no care black. She in camp 3 years.
Mr. Guzak, I don't want to have to speak to you about this again. If I do, you'll have to find another place yourself. Do you understand? This is my place. I say who will come here and who won't.
Yeah?
I'm not responsible for the world's misery.
Yeah?
You have a good job. You should be grateful to be here, but I'm not sure you are.
Yeah?
Flannery writes about this space-time between two different worlds colliding but failed to understand each other, and therefore creates a cruel fate.
Screw. Siempre misericordia. Indulget tibi Dominus. Quid protectum deliquisti. Amen.
And because je est un autre, I is another, Flannery is also some of her own characters. In Good Country People, Jo's character looks a little bit like Flannery, educated woman who grew up in the South, living with her mother in the country, with a faulty body. For Flannery it was a lupus, for Joy it is a missing leg. The missing part is intrinsic to the writing of Flannery O'Connor and may be detected both in content and in literary form. Here, the representations inherent in the concept of the missing part are palpable through the figures of the body, the face, and also of literary genre, borrows and reinterprets, such as the grotesque, the tragicomic, or the shape of the distance.
Around yonder, beach in Havana, from downtown there's a rumble in the alley. Whoa, you don't know, say too bad we can't go up there. Why can't we? Your leg.
This freaky body, visibly deformed, almost obscene in its non-finiteness, designates a truncated humanity into the unconscious mind.
Well, come on if you're coming.
This difference would affect some disgust. And it is in this physical difference, in this disturbing empty space, should be filled. Cruelty is established. Grace occurs when the different sublimes the pain through forgiveness.
I just want to know if you love me or don't you? Yes. 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 Okay, then prove it. How? Show me where your wooden leg joint's on. No. I known it. You playing me for a sucker. No, it joins on at the knee. Only at the knee. Why do you want to see it? Because it's what makes you different. You ain't like anybody else. All right. Put it back on me. Put it back on now. Well, not yet. Leave it off for a while.
The missing part in the disabled body, truncated, is this thing that disappeared, that is obviously gone. But the fact that we can feel the missing creates a feeling of difference. A difference between the unfinished body, which should be complete.
Now you can get out. Now you can leave me alone.
Flannery speaks about the mystery of life and humanity that escapes us. It was when I was reading Was Blood that I became interested in her. I am here where she lived, wrote, which was filmed movies that adapt her novels, and I think about Was Blood, the first novel I've read from her, and that seemed to me a mystery. Even here, in the southern world, in her farm, I found Was Blood. The buildings are old, worn, almost in ruins, as a clash between times. The time where Flannery lived here, the time of filming movies, and this time when I search something I do not know. There is this clash between times in the same space. Rin is a witness of time between Hazelmott's childhood and his adult life. When he arrives in his house after so many years, he creates a new prison to this place. He moves in the mystery of his existence. The only thing that is certain, that he should start building his adult life, to reinvent himself. This house, at this moment, is a symbol of his in-between. And space between the planks of wood symbolizes space-time through which he spaces. Hazelnut is struggling with the concept of the gap. He desperately seeks his place in the world, inside society, but never finds it. He rebels against any authority figure, and especially against the ultimate symbol, God.
Oh. Well, there's no place quite like home, is there? Are you going home?
I'm going to the city, Talkingham. I don't know nobody in Talkingham. I'm gonna do some things there.
I know George Sparks in Talkingham.
I'm gonna do some things I ain't never done before.
Well, time does fly, don't it? I haven't seen my sister's children in about 5 years now. I don't know if I know them if I saw them. There's Roy and Jimmy J and John Wesley. Oh, they call me Mama Dog, and they call my husband Papa Dog.
I reckon you think you've been redeemed.
Why, yes. Life is an inspiration, don't you think?
In Wise Blood, each character struggles with je est un autre, I is another, in search of space that separates them from something, someone, what they lost, and most often what they would like to be.
Shake hands with Gonga. I don't want to hurt you. I only wanted to shake hands. I only wanted to shake hands.
With Enoch Emery's character is by the mutation into something animal to approach other people and to be able to bring out his own humanity. Nothing more than cinematic metaphor that André Bazin uses to talk about the intrinsic process of movie magic that takes place through the movement of pictures placed one after the other on the film strip. La momie du changement, the mummy of change.
Shake hands with Gonga. You want to shake hands with Gonga?
Everyone has his missing part, visible or not, but that can still be felt. Everyone has a destiny because we are all incomplete and we're all looking for this missing part through readings, travels, and sometimes in meeting the other. But completeness is legendary, and this idea takes its origin in the Judeo-Christian mystic that once human being was one thing, one flesh, and God separated the flesh in two parts to create a difference, the space-time in between two and vector of humanity.
Well, Mr. Motes, I see you've come home. I knew you'd be back, and I've been waiting for you. You can have it any way you like, upstairs or down, just however you want it, and me to wait on you. If you want to go on somewhere, we'll both go. Won't we, Mr. Motes? Mr. Motes? Mr. Motes?
In Flannery O'Connor's writing, which transcends human cruelty, is a manifestation of grace by the presence of beauty that reflects the love of God. For her, the ultimate transcendental love that God gives to see is peacocks.
Ah, what a beautiful bird.
Another mouse to feed.
When does he raise his splendid tail?
Just when it suits him. There used to be 20 or 30 of these things on the place when my first husband, Judge McIntyre, was alive, but I let him die off. I like to hear him scream in the middle of the night.
So beautiful. A tail full of suns. Nothing but a pea chicken.
This world, perpetually fragmented and incomplete, gives way to a divine space, an area of transcendence as an access to God by the characters, an interval in which grace resurges.
Well, I always play Russian roulette in my head. 17 black, or 29 red. How far from the gutter? How far from the pew? I will always remember to forget about you. Good man.